Did you know that some of history's most celebrated heroes have been accused of terrible acts, like Christopher Columbus, who some argue contributed to the genocide of indigenous peoples? Today, we're going to challenge the notion that historical figures can be neatly categorized as heroes or villains. We'll delve into the lives of 6 famous icons, exploring both their achievements and their controversies. By examining these complexities, we'll gain a more nuanced understanding of the people who shaped our world. Before we dive deeper, if you're fascinated by the intricate narratives of political history, check out our political-themed designs at histoedutainment.com. Each piece reflects the complexities and controversies of historical figures, allowing you to wear your passion for history with pride. Now back to our history deep dive. The way we perceive historical figures often depends on the context in which we learn about them. We're often taught to idolize these figures, but this can lead to a simplistic view of their lives and actions. It's time to re-examine these icons, considering both their triumphs and their flaws. This journey will take us from the age of exploration to the modern civil rights movement, and we'll discover that even the most revered figures have complexities that can't be ignored. So, let's start our exploration of the gray areas between heroism and villainy. Christopher Columbus is often hailed as a pioneering explorer, but his actions had devastating consequences for indigenous populations. In 1492, Columbus landed in the Caribbean, marking the beginning of European exploration in the Americas. This event had far-reaching consequences, including the transfer of plants, animals, and cultures between the Old and New Worlds. However, Columbus's voyages also led to the exploitation and decimation of native populations. Many indigenous people were forced into slavery, and their populations were ravaged by diseases brought over by Europeans. The effects of colonization still resonate today, making it imperative that we consider Columbus's actions in their entirety. Columbus's treatment of indigenous people is a dark stain on his legacy, and it raises questions about whether we should continue to celebrate him as a hero. It's essential to remember that Columbus was a product of his time, and that his actions were shaped by the attitudes of the 15th century. Still, it's crucial that we acknowledge the harm inflicted by Columbus and the colonial powers that followed in his wake. By doing so, we can work towards a more nuanced understanding of this pivotal moment in history. Thomas Jefferson is an iconic figure in American history, celebrated for his role in drafting the Declaration of Independence. He's often regarded as a champion of liberty and democracy, but Jefferson's ownership of slaves undermines this heroic image. Jefferson wrote eloquently about the equality of all men, yet he was a slave owner throughout his life. This contradiction has led many to question whether Jefferson's actions were truly aligned with his ideals. It's a difficult paradox to reconcile, but one that's essential to understanding Jefferson's legacy. Jefferson's ownership of slaves is a stark reminder that even the most enlightened individuals can hold contradictory beliefs. This complexity is what makes Jefferson's legacy so fascinating and so problematic. In reality, Jefferson's ownership of slaves was a common practice during his time, but that doesn't excuse the moral contradictions in his actions. As we navigate the complexities of Jefferson's life, we're forced to confront the harsh realities of America's past. Mahatma Gandhi is synonymous with nonviolent resistance and civil rights activism. His philosophy of nonviolence inspired movements across the globe, from the American Civil Rights Movement to the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa. However, Gandhi's legacy is not without controversy. Critics have argued that his views on certain groups, such as women and minority communities, were paternalistic and condescending. Furthermore, some have questioned whether Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence was always effective in the face of oppression. Gandhi's treatment of certain groups is a complex issue, and one that requires careful consideration. While his commitment to nonviolent resistance was unwavering, it's essential to examine the potential limitations of this approach. Gandhi's life was marked by a series of contradictions, from his early support of the British Empire to his later advocacy for Indian independence. This complexity makes Gandhi a fascinating figure, one whose legacy continues to inspire and challenge us today. Winston Churchill is often lionized as a heroic leader who guided Britain through the turmoil of World War II. His oratory skills and unwavering resolve in the face of Nazi aggression earned him a special place in British history. However, Churchill's legacy is also marked by controversy, particularly regarding the British Empire's colonial history. His role in the Bengal famine of 1943, which killed millions of Indians, has been subject to intense scrutiny. Churchill's leadership during World War II was undoubtedly crucial, but we must also acknowledge the complexities of his legacy. This means confronting the darker aspects of the British Empire's history, including the exploitation and marginalization of colonial subjects. Churchill's views on colonialism were shaped by the attitudes of his time, but that doesn't excuse the harm inflicted by British colonial rule. As we examine Churchill's legacy, we must consider both his triumphs and his flaws. Cleopatra, the last active pharaoh of ancient Egypt, is often portrayed as a powerful queen and strategist. Her diplomatic alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony have become the stuff of legend, fascinating historians and filmmakers alike. However, Cleopatra's relationships with these two Roman leaders have also been subject to scrutiny. Some have argued that her relationships were exploitative and that she was willing to do whatever it took to maintain her power. Legacy is complex, marked by both her achievements as a leader and her controversial relationships. As we navigate the intricacies of her life, we're forced to confront the challenges of reconstructing ancient history. Cleopatra's story raises important questions about how we perceive female leaders, particularly those who have operated in male-dominated societies. Her legacy is a testament to the power and agency of women in ancient times, even as it challenges our modern conceptions of leadership. As we've seen, historical figures often embody both heroic and villainous traits. By acknowledging these complexities, we can work towards a more nuanced understanding of the people who shaped our world. This nuanced understanding is essential in today's society, where historical icons are often used to justify or condemn contemporary actions. By examining the complexities of these figures, we can develop a more critical perspective on history and its relevance to our lives. So, what do you think about the historical figures we've discussed today? Do you agree that they embody both heroic and villainous traits, or do you think we should continue to categorize them as simply good or evil? Let us know in the comments, and if you're new here, consider subscribing for more videos that challenge your perspective on history.